This team is just trying to make me hate them at this point. Welcome to From Center Ice. My name is Courtney, and guess what? Hockey is almost back. The Chicago Blackhawks released their promotional schedule today. That gets us one step closer to opening night, which kicks off the 2021-2022 NHL season. I have 2 paragraphs of note to read from their press release that they put out today announcing all of their promotions, and they read like this. The Blackhawks will kick off the fanfare around the season's start with the home opener on Tuesday, October 19th versus the New York Islanders, random, followed by the team's One Kane recognition on Thursday, October 21st versus Vancouver, officially skating in his 1,000th game during the pandemic on March 9th, 2021. Kane then noted his desire to wait to share the special moment with an arena full of the best fans in sports, and the team will present his silver stick prior to that second home game of the season. And this second paragraph is most notable. Additionally, Blackhawks Legacy Nights will honor Chicago's hockey heroes who recently hung up their skates and are celebrated by Blackhawks fans far and wide for their accomplishments both on and off of the ice over the last decade. Former players slated to make their return to the United Center as part of this series include Andrew Shaw on January 13th versus Montreal. Wow. How fun, that's where he was traded to, and then traded back to us. Brent Seabrook on January 31st versus Vancouver, and Nicholas Hjalmarsson on March 3rd versus Edmonton. That's all. Now let me ask you a question. Is there a Chicago Blackhawks player involved in multiple cup wins over the last decade who recently retired and was not included on that list? Let me think about this for a second. I can't think I can name one. Oh yeah, the goaltender, Corey Crawford. You know, the guy who probably should have won the Conn Smythe in 2013, but of course he didn't. They gave it to Patrick Kane because this player can never be fully appreciated, and I don't understand it. He was underrated his entire career, underappreciated his entire career, not only by people around the league, by Chicago Blackhawks fans themselves. What is wrong with you? And now you're seeing what it's like to have a team without an elite starting goaltender on it. It's not fun, is it? You took for granted the last decade of hockey in Chicago when we had a goaltender who was nothing if not consistent and consistently getting this team wins, especially on nights when they should not have won and had no business winning games. The best part is that fans of teams around the league actually think that Blackhawks fans loved this guy. Where have you been for the last decade? Any time that a goal was scored, oh, there's a softie, another one given up by Crawford. All he does is give up soft goals. Oh, there's another goal. Pull him, trade him, I don't care, get him out of there. We don't need him. We'll start one of our other backups. Let's see, who did fans want to take over the starting role other than Crawford throughout his tenure here? We had Ray Emery, Rip Razor. We had Scott Darling, we had Antti Ranta, we had Robin Lehner, and now we have Marc-Andre Fleury, which has nothing to do with Crawford. It's just very weird still. But do you get my point? Every time that we had another goaltender come in to be Crawford's backup, the fans wanted them to be the starter. I don't know if Blackhawks fans are just a special brand of ignorant and dumb, but here we are. Now we don't have an elite goaltender in net, and he is still being unappreciated by not only fans, but by the team! This guy who won you 2 Stanley Cups and was a very big factor in doing so, and no, he doesn't get a legacy night. You know, after we just came out and said last offseason that we don't really feel like re-signing him, even though we traded Robin Lehner away at the trade deadline for no good reason, really, and now we're just going to not re-sign Crawford, and What are we doing, net? We're just gonna try Malcolm Subban, Colin Delia, and Kevin Lofgren, cause why not? Oh, that's right. Because we are in a rebuild. How'd that go for ya? I'm trying very hard to keep this video clean because I don't want to have all sorts of naughty words flying around on this channel. That's saved for the podcast. I don't know what is in the water in Chicago, but between the team, which, you know, and then the Blackhawks fans, I can't make sense of what anybody is thinking ever. I try very hard. I have dedicated the last decade of my life to this team, and I still don't understand it. You would think the golden years of Blackhawks hockey, they're winning multiple Stanley Cups, 3 in 6 years. Crawford was a part of 2. But so was Andrew Shaw, and he's on this list. Because guess what? The fans loved him! As they should have. Andrew Shaw, fantastic guy, fun player to watch on the ice, always doing something crazy. You know, headbutting pucks into the net, which doesn't count, which very much should have counted. But guess who else was involved in winning that series? Your goaltender. And, nobody cares! And they still don't care because he's not getting a legacy night this year. Even though he retired before the season started, sure, he signed with the New Jersey Devils and retired before the season started, but guess what? Nicholas Hjalmarsson was playing for the Arizona Coyotes, so it doesn't matter that they weren't just playing with the Hawks. Brent Seabrook is a Tampa Bay Lightning right now. So what is the thought process that goes into this? Sure, maybe they offered one to him, and he said no. You know what? I wouldn't blame him. After everything he did for this team and went unappreciated the whole time he was here, and underrated and all of that, and then they just say, yeah, we're not gonna re-sign you, and just kind of like blindside him with that for no reason. Again, Malcolm Subban, Colin Delia, Kevin Lofgren, that's what we had to run with in net. Right, rebuild. I have to remember that. They didn't remember it, so maybe I don't have to remember it, but that's what they said. So, anyway, I could go on screaming about this for a very long time. I'm trying to film this video and now somebody is just using a weed whacker outside my window. It just seems fitting for all of this somehow. So anyway, as I was saying, instead of me just sitting here yelling at you, or more specifically to myself right in this moment, yelling at a camera on top of a table, I have some facts and stats for you about Corey Crawford's career. Let's see if he was the bum that everybody thinks he was. Corey Crawford was drafted in the 2003 NHL entry draft. He was taken in the second round by the Chicago Blackhawks, 52nd overall. Before turning pro, he spent 4 seasons with the Moncton Wildcats in the QMJHL. The weed whacker is back. He played 193 games for Moncton and had a record of 96, 68, and 18. Not too shabby. He ended his junior career with a 2.80 goals against average and a .913 save percentage. Moncton made the playoffs 3 times while he was there in his 4 seasons. He played a total of 38 games, going 21 and 15 in the playoffs, and had a career 2.62 goals against average and a .925 save percentage. Not too bad. He currently holds Moncton's lowest goals against average in a season. That came in the 04-05 season when he ended with a 2.47 goals against average. He holds the record for most wins in a season with 35. That came in 03-04. Now there's a lawnmower outside. He is tied for the most shutouts in a season for the Wildcats with 6, which he registered in the 04-05 season. And he made the QMJHL's second All-Star team twice, in the 03-04 season and the 04-05 season. This lawnmower is very much annoying me, just like Chicago fans when they talk about my goalie. Look how fitting that is. Once he turned pro, Crawford spent 5 seasons in the AHL between the Norfolk Admirals and then the Rockford IceHogs when they became the affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. He played 255 regular season AHL games and had a record of 135, 98, and 13. He had a career goals against average of 2.78 and a save percentage of .908. He saw playoff time in 5 out of 5 seasons in the AHL. AHL, which is rather shocking considering the state of the Ice Hogs these days. He played in 25 AHL playoff games, and he had a 2.72 goals against average and a 904 save percentage. Of course, the Ice Hogs just never win the Calder Cup, so you know. Crawford made his NHL debut in the 05-06 season. He had a record of 0-0-1, but he did see 2 games. He had a 3.47 goals against average and an 878 save percentage. So, not great, but this was the Chicago Blackhawks of 2005. If you recall, they got a 1st overall pick and a 3rd overall pick in there. You know. He made 5 NHL appearances in the 07-08 season. He had a record of 1-2-0 with a 214 goals against average and a 929 save percentage. So a bit better than that first bout in the NHL. In the 09-10 season, he played a total of 1 game. The Blackhawks lost that game. He had a goals against average of 3.04 and a save percentage of 914. But here is a fun fact for you. That 1 game that Corey Crawford played in the 09-10 season is the first Chicago Blackhawks game that I ever saw. It just happened to be on the TV in my living room. I saw it. I said, whoa, this is fun to watch. And I have been watching this team and this sport ever since. So maybe it's no wonder that Corey Crawford is my favorite NHL player of all time. He just happened to be in net in the first game I watched, even though it was the 1 game that he played that season. The universe is weird sometimes. Of course, Antti Niemi took over the starting goaltender role that season and played in the playoffs and won the Stanley Cup with the Chicago Blackhawks in the 2010 playoffs, which, you know. But when Niemi left in the offseason, it was then up to Marty Turco and Corey Crawford to take control of the net for the 2010-11 season. And this was when he became an NHL regular and never looked back. He took over the starting role about midway through the season. There were even some Calder conversations involving his name because he was that good as a rookie. I don't know what happened after he was getting all of that Calder love. Clearly he didn't win it that season, then the Hawks lost in the first round of the playoffs, and maybe that just derailed all of the good feelings that went into his career by the media and by Chicago fans. I don't know. I still don't understand it. But anyway, in the 2010-11 season, Corey Crawford played 57 games for the Chicago Blackhawks. He had a record of 33, 18, and 6. That's very good for a rookie. He had a 2.30 goals against average and a 917 save percentage. In the playoffs that season, of course, he played 7 games because the Blackhawks fought back from being behind, took Vancouver to 7 games. Of course, they lost in overtime because Chris Campoli doesn't know how to clear a puck out of the zone. But Corey had a 2.21 goals against average and a 927 save percentage with 1 shutout, which came in Game 5. A rookie goaltender putting up those kinds of numbers in the playoffs, pretty dang good. We just don't talk about the loss because I still have that goal just burned into my brain. I will never forgive Chris Campoli for that turnover. All he had to do was clear the puck. Didn't do that. Whatever. That was 10 years ago. Oh my god, that was 10 years ago. Moving on. That brings us to the 2011-2012 season. And you know, before I had talked about the 10-11 season because Corey had all of the Calder nods and all of that and saying I don't know what went wrong and how everything went downhill with how people talked about him. I do know, and it was the 2011-2012 season because people can't let it go. A sophomore slump occurs. How about that? How weird. No player in the history of the NHL has ever gone through a sophomore slump, right? Wrong. In the 11-12 season, Corey Crawford once again played 57 games for the Chicago Blackhawks. This time he was splitting the net with Ray Emery instead of Marty Turco, and this is what started people wanting Razor to take over the starting role for the Hawks. Corey had a record of 30, 17, and 7. For a sophomore slump, that's not that bad. He's still got 30 wins. He had a goals against average of 2.72 and a save percentage of 903. And then there were the playoffs. This is when they faced the Phoenix Coyotes in the first round. This is when Marian Hossa was taken out by Rafi Torres in his high headshot. It's when Mike Smith went down like he was shot when Andrew Shaw met him behind the net for, just a lovely little pat. Everything that could go wrong in this series went wrong, and yeah, Corey let in some bad goals, but did you see the goals that Mike Smith allowed also? Because if you don't recall, I highly recommend going back and rewatching that. There are videos on YouTube which have all of Phoenix's goals from that series and all of the Blackhawks goals from that series. If you watch them back to back, nobody should have won that series. But guess who lost? Corey Crawford's Chicago Blackhawks, and nobody ever forgave him for it because he had one bad playoff outing in 2011-2012. Do you recall what came after that? The 2 Stanley Cups. Anyway, he played 6 games in the playoffs that season. He had a 2.58 goals against average and an .893 save percentage. Again, not great, but again, go back and watch all of the goals from that series. Both goaltenders not at the top of their game. But people forgave Mike Smith rather quickly because he's Mike Smith. But we don't get that for Crawford. He's Corey Crawford. We'll forgive anything. Nope. Instead, it's trade the bum. We don't want him. I will never understand. So putting that year behind us, we move to the 2012-2013 season, which was basically the 2013 season because it was cut short due to the horrible lockout. Corey played 30 games that year, and he had a record of 19-5-5. I'd say that's pretty good. Maybe good enough to even forgive the last playoff year? Now, who am I kidding? This is the Chicago fans we're talking about. None of them make sense at all. You don't have to think that I make sense. I'm a Chicago fan. But thanks for watching anyway. He had a 1.94 goals against average that season and a .926 save percentage. He, along with Ray Emery, won the Jennings Trophy that year for the lowest goals against allowed. And in the playoffs, Crawford played 23 games. He went 16-7. He had a 1.84 goals against average and a .932 save percentage. He went 16-7. You know what that means. How many wins does it take to win the Stanley Cup? 16. The Chicago Blackhawks won the Stanley Cup that season, and Corey Crawford should have been the Conn Smythe winner, but because we can't acknowledge Crawford doing anything good, that's just not how it goes in Chicago. That was the year when people said his glove side sucked, they said his blocker side sucked, he said they say both sides suck. They must not have sucked too bad because they won the Stanley Cup, and he had a .932 save percentage. Yeah, that sure sounds like he sucked. I don't know how I have good blood pressure after this last decade of fighting people about my goaltender. Anywho, moving on to the 2013-14 season. Corey Crawford played 59 games for the Chicago Blackhawks that year. He had a record of 32-16-10, a goals against average of 2.26, and a .917 save percentage. In the playoffs that year, he played 19 games. He had a record of 11-8, a goals against average of 2.53, and a .912 save percentage. And we all know how the playoffs ended in 2014. It ended with an Alec Martinez shot going off of Nick Leddy's shoulder and over Corey Crawford into the net in overtime for the Los Angeles Kings to win and go back to the Stanley Cup final where they beat the New York Rangers in 5 games. If we go back and rewrite history, the Chicago Blackhawks probably three-peat the Stanley Cup, but alas, that series against LA happened. I haven't brought myself to rewatch it because there's just so much pain. I've been able to watch the 2010 Game 7 against the Vancouver Canucks. I know 2 cups come after that, and yes, while the Stanley Cup comes after 2014, it's just different because the Hawks should have won. But Nick Leddy's shoulder. It happens, I guess. So let's put that behind us and move on to the 14-15 season, which is a lot happier than the previous one. Corey Crawford played 57 games for the Chicago Blackhawks that year. If you are sensing a trend, is that he played a lot of games. He had a record of 32, 20, and 5, a goals against average of 2.27, and a .924 save percentage. In the playoffs that year, Corey Crawford played 20 games for the Chicago Blackhawks. He had a 2.31 goals against average and a .924 save percentage. He was very consistent that year. He ended the playoffs with a record of 13-6. That is not 16 because Scott Darling and his heroics in round 1, which people also never forgive Crawford for because he had a bad series, even though what came after that, dude, I don't know. Anyway, it wasn't 16 wins, but the Chicago Blackhawks won the Stanley Cup. They beat the Tampa Bay Lightning, and Corey Crawford got a shutout in Game 6. What a bum. He also won the Jennings Trophy that year, splitting it with Carey Price of the Montreal Canadiens. And we all know that after that season, the seasons start to go kind of downhill for the Blackhawks after that, but we're gonna talk about him anyway. So on to 2015-2016. Corey Crawford played 58 games for the Chicago Blackhawks. He had a record of 35, 18, and 5, a goals against average of 2.37, and a .924 save percentage because consistency. In the playoffs that year, he played 7 games because they lost to the St. Louis Blues in 7 games. But he ended the playoffs with a 2.55 goals against average and a .907 save percentage. In the 2016-2017 season, Corey Crawford played 55 games for the Chicago Blackhawks. He had a record of 32, 18, and 4, a 2.55 goals against average, and a .918 save percentage. In the playoffs that season, Corey Crawford played 4 games for the Chicago Blackhawks because they were swept by the Nashville Predators, scoring 3 goals in the process. I'm totally fine. He had a 2.84 goals against average and a .902 save percentage. And now we start entering the injury years. In 2017-2018, Corey Crawford played 28 games for the Chicago Blackhawks. He had a record of 16, 9, and 2, still good, a 2.27 goals against average, and a .929 save percentage, because why not? In the 2018-2019 season, Corey played 39 games for the Blackhawks. He had a record of 14, 18, and 5, so first losing record since he took over that starting role for the Hawks. He had a 2.93 goals against average and a .908 save percentage. And the team was also trash. And the 2019-2020 season, which was cut short due to COVID-19, Corey Crawford played 40 games for the Chicago Blackhawks. He had a record of 16, 20, and 3, a 2.77 goals against average, and a .917 save percentage, but since they went into the bubble, they decided to just expand the heck out of that, and the Blackhawks were involved. They won their play-in series against the Edmonton Oilers. They then went on to face the Vegas Golden Knights. Crawford appeared in 9 playoff games that season. He had a 3.31 goals against average and a .907 save percentage. The last win of his career came in Game 4 against the Golden Knights, which was on August 16th, 2020, my good friend John's birthday. The Blackhawks won that game 3-1, but it's not because they were just better than the Golden Knights. Corey Crawford faced 49 shots on goal, made 48 saves. He had a .980 save percentage. For the last win of this guy's storied career with the Blackhawks and career overall since he retired before the next season, what a last win to have. Of course, the Hawks would go on to lose Game 5 and be eliminated from the playoffs, but wow. And that last win really just kind of summarizes his career with the Blackhawks. Yes, he was with them through the golden years. He played on some fantastic Chicago Blackhawks teams, but he wasn't just carried by the guys in front of him, which is what a lot of people try to say to discredit him and anything he did for the team, which is incredibly frustrating. I know that you all have watched a season for a different team or caught tidbits of a season for a different team when they had great players up front, and then just because of the goaltender, Nothing happens. I mean, there's the Toronto Maple Leafs in the playoffs when they play against Boston. But we're not gonna go there because that's even more pain, and I have enough pain trying to make this video. Simply put, Corey Crawford was not a passenger for his career on this Blackhawks team. He was one of the main contributors to their success, and many nights when the Hawks should not have won a game, here comes Corey Crawford dragging their lifeless bodies to a win, and sometimes dragging them, kicking and screaming, into the playoffs. And yeah, that's his job as the goaltender. That's kind of what you sign up for. You gotta be there for your team. You're the last line of defense. If all of the guys in front of you mess up, you have to stop the puck, and on many nights, he did that. But nobody ever wants to give him credit for it. Forever underrated, forever underappreciated. Let's talk about his career numbers as a whole. Corey Crawford saw parts of 14 seasons in the NHL. He played a total of 488 regular season games for the Chicago Blackhawks. He had a total regular season record of 260, 162, and 53. His career goals against average is 2.45, and his career save percentage is .918. I know you all love Robin Lehner. Guess who else's career save percentage thus far is .918? Yeah, his. So that's not a bad number! He's a 2-time Stanley Cup winner, a 2-time Jennings Trophy winner, a 2-time NHL All-Star, and he also made some history with the team. In the 2010-2011 season, he had a shutout streak. It went for 176 minutes and 9 seconds. It spanned from January 17th to the 15th, and that was the longest shutout streak by a Blackhawks goaltender since Tony Esposito in 1972. Let me remind you, this was the 2010-11 season when he was a rookie! From February 20th to March 8th of 2011, Corey Crawford had an 8-game win streak, which set a new NHL record for rookie netminders. And that was one short of a team record held by Glenn Hall. Are you sensing a theme here? Tony Esposito, Glenn Hall, two of the most beloved goaltenders in Hawks franchise history because they were great. And Crawford is mentioned right up there with them, sometimes passing them in these things, and nobody gives him any credit for it. Also, in the 2010-11 season, he registered the 30th win of his rookie season on March 28th, 2011. He was the first Blackhawks goaltender to hit 30 wins since Jocelyn Thibault in the 01-02 season. His first career playoff shutout came in Game 5 against Vancouver. Like I said, the Blackhawks won that game 5-0, which was the largest margin in a victory in Blackhawks playoff history. And Crawford was the goaltender. In the 2011-2012 season, Corey Crawford became the first Blackhawks goaltender to win 30 games in back-to-back seasons since Ed Belfour in 92-93. There's another name that everybody loves. In the 14-15 season, Corey Crawford became the 4th goaltender in Blackhawks history to have 4 30-win seasons. This franchise has existed for a very long time, and he is the 4th to do that. In the 15-16 season, Corey Crawford broke Tony Esposito's playoff win record with his 46th playoff victory. All of that, and then we come to October 8th, 2020, when Stan Bowman says they will not be re-signing Corey Crawford after his deal had expired. He then went on to sign a 2-year contract with the New Jersey Devils. On January 8th, 2021, the Devils announced an indefinite leave of absence for Crawford from the team, and the very next day, he announced his retirement. I still haven't been able to process that bit, but it's just the facts, and I'm giving you the facts, so that is when he retired from the NHL. He ended his career with 260 regular season wins. That is 3rd most in Blackhawks history. Guess who he trails? Tony Esposito with 418 wins, and Glenn Hall with 276. His 52 career playoff wins are most in Blackhawks history. He is trailed by Tony Esposito with 45, Ed Belfour with 35, and Glenn Hall with 31. Corey Crawford is the only Blackhawks netminder to win multiple Stanley Cups with the team. He is third in games played by a Blackhawks netminder with 488 games. He only trails, once again, Tony Esposito with 873 games and Glenn Hall with 618. His career goals against average of 2.45 ranks 7th in team history. The only goaltender ahead of him with over 100 games is Chuck Gardner, who played from 1927 to 1934. His .918 save percentage is third in team history. He trails Scott Darling, who has a .923 save percentage in 75 games played, and Robin Lehner with a .918 save percentage. But he only played 33 games for the Blackhawks, and that is his career save percentage across all teams. He is 7th in team history in shutouts with 26. And shutouts kind of weren't really his thing. It was a very weird phenomenon. So the Blackhawks have had a lot of down years throughout their history, so maybe you're not impressed by all of that. Let's go league-wide. These stats were found on the NHL website, and they covered players who have played from 1917 all the way until 2021. For goaltenders who have played over 100 games in the NHL, Corey Crawford ranks 31st all time in goals against average. Against all goalies throughout the league, throughout the years. Not just the Blackhawks. 31st. In save percentage, he ranks 16th. He also ranks 16th in most 30-win seasons. He registered 6 30-win seasons. And just because I think this one is fun, he ranks 11th in career shootout wins. He won 34 shootouts while losing 24 of them, so he's got a winning record. If all of that was not enough to convince you that Crawford deserves some credit every once in a while even for what he did throughout his career for the Chicago Blackhawks, I don't know what else to tell you. I shouldn't have even had to tell you all of that. Just by watching him throughout the years, you should have known. Yes, I acknowledge that the Blackhawks had some very good teams while he was their netminder. But good teams have bad games. And when the Blackhawks had bad games, usually there was Crawford stealing a game for them in net. You have to have a good team. You have to have a good netminder. Both of those are what you need for success. That is what the Blackhawks had. But people will only give them credit for half of that. And the team in front of him, they say, oh, he had the best defense. Oh, he had the best forwards. Oh, screw that guy in net. You could have put anybody in there. You could have put me in there and we would have won the Stanley Cup. Shut up. Corey Crawford was an elite goaltender in his time with the Chicago Blackhawks. He deserves recognition for that. He deserves credit. He deserves to be appreciated. He deserves a legacy night from the team that he spent his entire career with and won 2 Stanley Cups for. But nope, he doesn't get one this year. So, my friends, I think I am done yelling at you now about my goaltender. I could really probably make this video 3 hours long and still be yelling about this by the end of it. But I do also kind of want to have a voice tomorrow. So this is where I leave you. If you have watched this far, thank you for watching, and also leave your favorite Crawford memory down in the comments. Tell me your favorite game. There's a lot to choose from! But anyway, that's all for me in this one. If you would like to hear more from me or from Center Ice, you can head on over to FromCenterIce.com. Find links to all the places. We've been very quiet these last few weeks. It's the middle of the summer, but hockey season is right around the corner. Things will start amping back up. You will see more of my face. You will see more of Jacqueline's face. You will see more of everything on this channel, and I look forward to it. And if you want to keep up with us on social media, all the links to those platforms are down in the description for you. Other than that, thank you so much again for watching all of this. I greatly appreciate it, and I will catch you all in the next video. Bye, guys.